G'day guys, welcome back to another video this week. After a couple of weeks off, had some things I needed to prioritise, but we're back now and that's what matters. What I wanted to do this week is cover something extremely practical, relatively short and sharp that if you wanted to, you could pick up and start doing like today or, at the start of the week, whenever you watch this. So a lot of people are pretty good at setting goals at the start of the financial year, start of the calendar year, and that's kind of the easy part, setting them, although, even that has a bit of an art to it, bit of a science. But what's harder is kind of actually taking the goals that you set at the start and tracking them through to completion at the end of the year. Like, how do you, it's a very common example, a common scenario, and like I've been here as well, where you set goals at the start of the financial year for work, and then you kind of forget about them for like 6 months or even 9 months, and it gets to the end of the performance cycle and you're like, oh shit, like have I ticked off the goals that I said I was going to tick, because now my manager's asking me about them and all that sort of thing. So I've learnt this from Cal Newport. He's a guy who does videos online, and I read one of his books maybe 3 or 4 years ago called Deep Work, which is all about productivity and focus, which is a book that I still quote to this day, had a massive impact on me. And anyway, I watched one of his videos where he was talking about his method and his framework for how he tracks his goals. And so that's what I wanted to take you through today, because it's been useful for me from a work perspective. Like, I use it in my consulting day job. And who knows, perhaps it could be useful for you. So at the start of the financial year, I go through my goal setting process. I had an earlier video on that, which you can find. So I'm not going to talk about the process of setting goals. But again, I want to talk about how I am going about tracking them through to completion. So first things first, I've got a page on my computer. Like, I use Notion as a tool, but you could do it anywhere. You could do it in a physical piece of paper if you wanted to. But I've got a page where I've got all of my goals listed out, right? So it'd be like, let's set some dummy goals right now. Let's say I am a consultant or a senior consultant, and one of my goals is I will create, new and improved onboarding materials for new members of the team. As an example, maybe another one would be what will I do? I will run 5 training sessions for graduates who join the team next year. Let's take those 2 as examples for now. And then maybe, fuck it, let's go one more. A third one might be, I will organize 3 team building social events for colleagues in the Melbourne office. Pick those as an example because they're quite generic, right? Doesn't really matter what type of work you do. If you're in consulting, it doesn't matter what type of consulting you do. You could have 3 goals like that as an example. I literally just took a copy of the actual page that I use. I didn't want to show you my actual goals. That's why there's so many rows there, because I put up my personal goals in there and that sort of thing as well. All right, now, what's the process? So what I do is take my high-level goals. These are time-bound to the financial year, so within a year. And then I go, all right, this quarter, what do I need, or what do I want to achieve in relation to this goal within this quarter? So you can see I got July to September. As I record this, it's the 14th of September, so we're coming to the end of the quarter. But let's say, if you were doing this today, perhaps you would just start with the second quarter, and you would say, October to December, and start planning ahead. But I break it down and go, all right, I will create new and improved onboarding materials for new members of the team. So if I want to complete that by the end of the year, I could sit down and go, all right, so what would I need to complete within the quarter? Go, maybe it would be useful to, let's say, draft, or let's say have a finalized plan for what materials will be included. have a finalised and endorsed plan for which materials will be included. Because if I could do that in a quarter, that gives me 3 quarters to kind of go through on the execution of the goal. So if I can get the plan finalised and endorsed by the partner in my team or my manager, then I've got 3 quarters to go and actually build it out. So I go, all right, so that's what I want to get done in the quarter. So if I want to get that done in the quarter, then what do I need to get done this month? And again, it's got September here, but you just make it whatever month you're in. All right, so if I need to have a finalised and endorsed plan, then by the end of the quarter, then by the end of the month, I would need to, let's say, have a draft plan with some initial feedback from team members. So by the end of this month, if I could have a draft plan for what I want to include in the onboarding materials, I show them to some of my colleagues, get their perspective on it, then that will set me up to have a finalised and endorsed plan by leadership at the end of the quarter. Then you break this monthly goal down to, all right, so then if that's what I'm trying to get done this month, I want to have a draft plan with initial feedback from team members. What do I want to get done this month? I go, all right, this week, sorry. So it's like, all right, well, I guess this week, I just need to have a draft plan for included materials and topics. Like I need the draft. And so then you kind of start from the top and you break it down piece by piece until it becomes very specific and actionable. And if you read it from right to left, it kind of builds on itself. So it's like, all right, this week, I want to have a draft plan for included materials and topics. Then at the end of this month, I want to have a draft plan with some initial feedback from team members. And then at the end of the quarter, I want to have a finalised and endorsed plan from a leadership perspective for plans and for what materials will be included. And that's just after 1 quarter. Now, the power of this is, power of doing that bit specifically is that you take a goal which is big, large, kind of where do I start, and you chunk it down. And chunking is one of the simplest things you can do to just start making progress and start taking steps, because it takes something which is kind of broad, vague, abstract, creating new onboarding materials. And you can see where we get to. We get to something very specific where we go, all right, this week, I'm going to have a draft plan for what's going to be included. That's all I need to do this week. And you keep breaking it down. And then, I guess the next thing I should say is that, so then when I log on at the start of the day, what I do is at the start of every day, I review my strategic goals page and I look at, all right, what did I say I was going to get done this week? And then as I tick things off so that's how I'd figure out what are the things I need to do today. Because there's kind of 2 types of tasks that land in your, let's say, to-do list day to day. One bucket of tasks, and the bucket of tasks that comes for everybody and doesn't discriminate, is like the work that just hits your inbox that you need to do. Someone asks you for something, you got to get it done. Your boss asks you for something, got to get it done. The client asks you for something, got to get it done, right? The things that come at you. But then it's really easy to not get any of your work done in terms of your actual goals that you set. It's like the work that you want to create, if that makes sense. Work is always coming at you, but then you want to also be proactive and be working on the things that are actually important to you, which is these things here, right? The goals. So at the start of every day, I get out my to-do list and I can see the things that are coming at me that I need to do. That then I turn to this page and I go, now what did I say I was going to get done this week? All right, I said I was going to have a plan for included materials and topics for the new onboarding materials. All right, I'm going to fit that in on Tuesday as an example. And then as I get things done, I cross them off on here. And then I populate all of these as well. And I cross them off as the week goes on. And it really helps me stay on track. And again, make sure that I'm making progress every week on my goals. Is that cool? So I feel like there's 2 parts. There's value in just the process of breaking this down at the start. But then there's the process of the benefits of the ongoing coming back to this page. So every day I come back here and I review, what did I say I was going to get done this week? Then at the end of the month, because again, so today's the 14th of September as I record this, once we hit the end of September, I'll come and I will review what did I say I was going to get done throughout September. Hopefully a lot of these things, if not all of them, are crossed off by the time I get there, because I've been doing all my weekly work, which contributes to the monthly goal, so hopefully they're crossed off. And then at the start of October, so October 1st, I will sit down and I'll look at my quarterly goals for each objective. And I'll go, all right, so September, what did I do? I got the draft plan with some initial feedback. By the end of the quarter, I want to have an endorsed plan from a leadership perspective. So maybe my goal for next month is I'm going to make sure I get time in the partner's calendar, and so that I can get that endorsement that I need from them so I can take them through it. All right. This is kind of a bad example because we're in the month of September, what I achieve this month should cross off my quarterly objective because the quarter ends in September, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So you just break it down bit by bit, and naturally, if you just keep ticking off your weekly goals, then your monthly ones will naturally get ticked off. And if you keep ticking off your monthly ones, your quarterly ones will naturally keep getting ticked off. And then if you keep ticking off the quarterly ones, then your annual ones will naturally get ticked off. And so it really just chunks it down really nicely so that every day you just know what you need to get done that week, right? And then you break it down day by day and you make progress towards your goals. You get all the lovely things done that you want to get done, and you get all the praise for it at the end of the year, and you have a great year. So that was what I wanted to show you this week. Like I said, the maintenance of it is just at the start of every week, I set new weekly objectives based on my monthly ones. At the start of every month, I set new monthly objectives based on my quarterly ones. At the start of every quarter, I set quarterly objectives based on my annual objectives. When you break it down that way, you keep on top of it, you keep making progress, you always know what you got to do next, you keep them front of mind, you don't just forget about them, and you make the progress that you want to make to really smash it out and have a great year. So that's all. I hope you found that useful. Like I said, do it on a computer, do it in a physical notebook, whatever works for you. Nothing complex about it. It's simple, but very effective. Cheers, guys. Have a great week.